Kent Adams here with the Pulse of Spokane. I hope you're having a good day and staying warm as we tape this. It's cold outside, okay? A lot going on, and I'm pleased to have Larry Haskell, our county prosecutor, here today. And perhaps you've seen some of the headlines, and more important, some of the outrageous, in my opinion, things that are said about Larry. We're going to talk about that on an exclusive one-on-one right after this.
Hi, this is Larry Myers, normally at River Ridge Hardware, here at Peters Hardware, where I've been blessed to be able to buy it. Initially started in 1934 by Bill Peters, and I was blessed to be able to purchase that from the Peters family. Peters Hardware is located at 12118 East Sprague, enter off of Pines and First. We have all the quality home products that you need, including quality paint now where we can match any color that you want. We're here for you for all your home needs. Come on by to Peters Hardware in Spokane Valley.
Well, I mentioned my guest today, Larry Haskell, and I've known Larry since you ran for office 8 years ago.
Yeah, 2014 was a campaign year.
Wow. I just did that math in my head, and I wasn't thinking it was that long, but
Very
it
good.
is.
Time
Has
flies.
been. Yeah. It's a long time when you're having fun, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, speaking of having fun, you've made a couple of headlines recently, both in the Inlander and in the Spokesman Review and on the other TV stations in town and so forth. And I wanted to talk to you about that. Apparently, we've gone through this thing in the last 20, 30 years of women and giving them more responsibility and a chance to be their own person and so forth. But now apparently part of the rules that I missed was that what your wife says affects you and that you can't think independently on things. You're an independent thinker, aren't you?
All my life.
Yes. Including, we had a great conversation, what was it, 6 months or a year ago, about your ejecting out of a plane. What was it, a
A B-1 bomber.
B-1 bomber, yes. And all of that. And so you have to kind of think for yourself, don't you?
Well, and at the time, the airplane was pretty new, and that was the first actual operational accident that happened.
Really?
That bird strike that we had down there low level. And basically I had to make a decision to leave what was approximately a $350 million airplane.
Oh, gee.
When it was healthy, though.
Yes. Larry, let's talk about why you've been in the headlines recently. And it's because of what Leslie, your wife, said.
Correct.
And on social media. I know you're not a social media person.
No.
No.
I do very little on social media.
That's probably wise, okay? Yeah, very wise in so many ways.
I wish I could teach the lesson, but
Yeah. She said some things that were not kind, inappropriate, and so forth. And you haven't agreed with her.
absolutely not.
No. And I guess I'm stumbling here because I'm thinking about my wife says things to me and to other people that I don't always agree with. But am I responsible for that? I mean, at some point, don't we all want to be independent thinkers?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to teach.
Yeah. Okay, so she said some things that what I didn't like, to be honest with you, was the coverage in terms of who do they go out to talk? And they go out to these minority groups and to kind of stir up the angst against you and so forth. And how do you get a fair hearing from that?
Well, again, I mentioned this in the news conference that I did. A trial by media is extremely difficult.
Yes, yes.
Because you don't own only but a small portion of the messages
Right.
that go out there. But as far as the comments goes, I absolutely condemned them, and I have no sharing of those types of attitudes or anything like that. And as I said then, I'll say now, I apologize for the pain that it's caused.
Yes.
I've had numerous discussions with my wife regarding those types of statements, and it's made an impact, I know, on a lot of people, and I apologize for that.
Right.
However, the issue is to what extent do her views affect the practice of law as I serve as the county's lawyer?
Exactly, exactly. Because we all elected you twice, third time coming up,
Correct.
to represent we the people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how do you do that? I mean, this is kind of a personal question, but how do you do that when we all have biases and positions that we come to, but then there's the law that makes it very clear? How do you put that hat on, Larry?
Right. Well, and you're
And your
absolutely right.
staff too. They have to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you're absolutely right. Everybody has their own biases.
Yes.
But I take the advice of a gentleman that I was introduced to probably a couple years ago now. His name was Ricky Kidd, and he was in Spokane, and he was incarcerated for a long period of time. And he was an African-American male, and he eventually was able to get his conviction overturned.
Oh, wow.
It took a long time to do, and he was the guest speaker, and I was part of a panel there. And his advice to all of us was, you need to check your bias. And one of the ways that you do that, and the way that we do it in the prosecutor's office, is we have not the unfettered discretion that sometimes is alleged that prosecutors have. We have many guides and guideposts and places to go to help you check your bias. And it starts with the Constitution. It
Yes.
starts with the Constitution of the United States, and then also incorporated as the differences are recognized between the federal and the state constitution.
Right.
We have an entire statutory scheme that is followed religiously
Right.
by our office, and then you also have the court rules, the rules of professional conduct, ethical standards, and all of the case law that helps you interpret those things.
Right.
And not to mention, we have many, many years of experience in our office that we are using as an advantage to teach the younger lawyers as they come into the office and they get into the practice of law, many of them for the very first job that they've ever had post law school.
Right.
And then teach them how to be effective prosecutors and ministers of justice, which is what the rules of professional conduct tell us that we are.
What is the statute today? Are we incarcerating people right up front or on the second time? I've always worried about, and we read about again, we see in the paper and other places, someone who's had 2, 3, 4 times, and yes, they maybe finally get some jail time, prison time. But are we setting the tone that we need to as a public?
Well, the statutory scheme is changing all the time. The legislature's in session right now, and as they like to say,
Watch out.
Never are your property or goods any more in peril than when the legislature's
Yes,
in session.
yes.
But overall, the statutory scheme in Washington has been to reduce the penalties and chip away at, like, for instance, a couple of years ago, they took second-degree robbery out of the three-strike scheme, and we've been resentencing people who had a third strike, any one of which was a second-degree robbery and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's a little bit concerning, especially when you're dealing with that sort of thing. Not to mention the restrictions on law enforcement.
Yes.
And juxtapose that in light of the homicide numbers that I just gave you, and it's concerning to us that We're looking at shortening sentences and restricting the actions of the police at a time when we're seeing an increase city and as well as county in violent crime.
Right, right. It's a tough time. It is that changing time. I'm not liking a lot of the change. And I think there are a lot of people out there that go, okay, I'm not committing crimes and so forth, but I can't go downtown or I can't do this because it's not safe anymore. We've got, I think, one of the best police departments and sheriff's departments in the country. I know both Craig and Ozzy and so forth, and they don't put up with a lot. But their deputies and their officers are hand-tied today, like never before.
I don't know that they're hand-tied, but basically the move in the legislature is to basically more crisis intervention,
Okay.
less hands-on, less use of force, requiring more for an officer to actually be able to do that. And in some cases, it's dangerous not only for the police, but it's dangerous for the person as well.
Yes.
So there's a lot of teaching going on right now.
Okay.
To make sure that officers are educated and prepared for the types of situations they're going to come into, where just a short time ago they would be able to do something else, but now the law says that
You can't do that, you got to do this.
correct. And
Right.
you've seen articles in
Sure.
various publications where police just have to essentially just leave the area
Yeah.
until and unless the requirements are met. And I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying that it's different, and I think there is some consequence in terms of some of the crimes that we're seeing as a result.
Right.
So from that standpoint, from a public safety standpoint, as I say many times, the only non-volunteer in the criminal justice system generally is the victim.
Yes, yes, yes. And what are we doing to protect them and
Exactly.
their families and the what happens to them because of the crime and so forth?
Well, too, Kent, what gets lost in the shuffle sometimes in terms of the discussion is that the Washington State Constitution has victim rights in it,
Yes.
as well as the statutory scheme. And there's a paragraph wherein it says that those rights are to be as respected and protected just as jealously and zealously as the rights of the accused themselves.
Right.
And that conversation gets lost, but not on us.
Yes, and I think I'm glad you brought that up, because we often talk about, and what's out there so much is ensuring, and we want to, those that are accused and so forth, that they get all the coverage and all the support afforded by law.
Absolutely.
And a fair, I believe in the jury system when we can do that and so forth. Are they always right? No. But even a judge, we've seen things in the past and so forth. But it is probably the fairest system in the world when it comes down to it.
Whenever I do a trial,
Yes.
when we have what they call voir dire and we get to talk to the panel, I thank the jurors for showing up
Yeah.
and participating in the process, because you are participating in a process
Yes.
that is rare
Yes.
on the planet that we live on.
So true.
And it is. And of course, anything conceived by humans, run by humans, is going to fail occasionally, like humans do.
Yes.
But our goal is to make sure that the process is honored, that
Yes.
the rights are honored and respected.
For everybody.
For everybody. That's
Yes.
exactly right. Will we drop the ball every now and again? Yes, we're going to make mistakes.
you're human.
But I always tell the young lawyers in my office, I said, you're going to make mistakes.
Yes.
How you get measured, though, not only here, but by the public, is what you do after that.
Yes, isn't that the truth? That really is. I've sat on a couple of juries years and years ago, and you hear one case we were really going to look at, and just by the accusations and so forth, I'm going in my mind, okay, if he was charged with molesting his daughter, his stepdaughter, probably a good reason. They've done the study and all of that, and then went through the trial. And I think I'm pretty average when it comes to, oh my gosh, that's a terrible crime to be doing that to a child and so forth. But when we went through the trial, it was not proven at all, and proven that the stepdaughter had lied before and so forth. And I remember, and we voted to acquit. I remember the prosecutor at the time that came up and said, "Tell me about what are you willing to tell me about the discussion and so forth?" First thing I wanted to know, honestly, was, has he ever been accused or on trial before? Because that would probably tell me that, oh, maybe I was wrong. And the answer was no. So that kind of confirmed in me, and I think a couple of the other jurors, okay, maybe that was a wrong accusation of this fellow and so forth. And because he had people come in and testify for him and so forth, but the stepdaughter had unreliable people in her defense.
Yeah.
If you
Well,
will.
and that's what a jury gets to weigh, and that's why it's
not
It's
easy.
really a good system, and generally, except in the most narrow of circumstances, how many times someone's been arrested before or they've been convicted before generally is disallowed.
Right,
Simply
right.
because the person is on trial for the conduct that they committed
Right.
in this instance,
Right.
and not anything that they had done in the past. Now, there is a narrow window, but very specific requirements have to be met, and it's a judicial decision whether or not any additional information
And that's why it
comes
didn't
in.
come up in the trial,
Yep.
because he didn't have any. But in my mind, I kind of wanted to know, had I, as part of the jury of one of 6 or 12 people, maybe made a mistake, because if I'd had that information, I might have wanted to know more info, and so forth. And it just kind of relieved me a little bit that acquitting him made sense.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really prove it, but you kind of wonder, I mean, we're humans. If someone's going to be accused of that, maybe they have a history of that.
Well, I tried a case one time. It was a gun case, and also some of the facts that were developed at the trial was that the person had been poaching deer.
Oh.
And when the jury came out after they convicted, they didn't want to talk about the guns. They wanted to know, how many deer did this guy poach? I said, I have no idea.
Oh, gee. Oh, gee.
But what was on their mind was totally different.
Yeah. Let's get back a little bit to, how are you doing personally with all of this? People accusing you of making what I think are character assassinations, because if he's married to somebody that does that, then he must be guilty.
Right.
We all have friends, and some of them have made mistakes in our lives. Are we in family, and are we always responsible for them?
Yeah.
It just bothers me.
Well,
But how are you doing?
I'm dealing with it. It's difficult because, again, you're kind of defending a negative because
Yeah.
the allegation is because a family member feels a certain way.
Right.
Then you must feel the same way because every family member agrees with everything else.
Yeah, right. Tell me.
That could never
Where
happen.
is that family out there?
I don't know. In the 50s storybooks.
Yes.
But in any case, the fact of the matter is, and I stated this very, very adamantly in my press conference, my news conference that I had here a couple of weeks ago, I don't live like that. I don't practice law like that, and I wouldn't allow it in my office either.
Right.
And the fact is that all those things that I told you about the restraints, really, and as well as the allowances that prosecutors have in terms of leeway in charging, we're monitored every day by the courts. We're monitored by each other. We are equally responsible for the
public.
rules of conduct. We're monitored by the public, and we see many members of the public, not only on juries but in other venues in the courthouse, and without literally a shred of evidence that we practice that way. I'm here defending the way that we practice.
Right.
But the fact is that. And I said this, we're open, and you could go to the judges. You can go to the various law enforcement agencies that we deal with.
Right.
Have they ever filed a complaint against anybody? No. So I know that we practice the way we should. I know that we use all of the statutory and constitutional court rules and the rules of ethics and that sort of thing. I'm very confident in the way that we are, and it's unaffected by. I don't care whose views you're talking about.
Right.
I don't care who they are. This is the job that we have, and this is the guidance that we use,
And the law that we have to follow.
and we do it every day.
Yeah, yeah. How's your staff doing? Have they felt a little bit targeted because of it, maybe?
Well, yeah, they're a little
You
offended
paint
as well.
the wall with everybody if you're a part of, and you have how many attorneys?
Well, we've got a staff of about 158, and I probably have about 74 of those or so are attorneys.
That's a big group.
And it is a very large office, and
Yes.
it has affected them to a degree because they know how we operate.
Right.
But they're not going to jump out there and get into the fray. But I tell them, you hold your heads up high.
Right.
We do the right things, and eventually, if truth matters, then it will be borne out.
Right. You're disappointed to see some of the community people step up and say some things about the office and you.
Well, don't lose sight of the fact that, and you pointed this out when we first started, it's an election year.
Yes.
And sometimes when you don't have anything, then you go after something.
Yes.
And that's essentially what this is. You mentioned the term character assassination,
Yes.
and that I think that's an appropriate term.
Right.
Because I wasn't liked by some of the people that are complaining about it.
Sure.
And what they don't like is my views towards prosecution and accountability.
And that's what it really is about.
And that's what it's really
Right,
about.
right.
My wife isn't running for public office. That's not the target. The target is sitting right before you right now. But the fact is, again, we follow all of the rules and make sure they're applied equally in every case.
That's why I like you as our county prosecutor, because you do. I know that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Leslie, how's she doing?
She's surviving.
She's surviving?
Yeah.
Yeah. Learned a little lesson, maybe?
Oh, I hope so.
I won't go beyond
I
that.
hope
I
so.
know Leslie. She's a wonderful person. I can't imagine that she did that on purpose to cause problems or anything like that. But sometimes we all say things that maybe we shouldn't, and some of us should maybe think a little more before we on social media.
We've had many discussions about that.
Yeah. So, yeah. Larry, thank you. Thank you for 8 good years
Thank you, Ken.
coming up. You have my support, my personal support for one more term. Will you be going after that too? In 4 more years, you think?
No, 4 years, I'm out.
Yeah. You and Tom Cohn.
I want to do that retirement that you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, don't follow me for success, okay? I'm introduced by Sulani Madsen to her friends when they come in and stuff as, this is Kent Adams, he failed retirement. And now other people are starting to use that phrase, well, I guess I'm a failed Kent too, So, but again, thank you for all that you do. Please thank your department.
I will
for
do
all
that.
of them
I will
for
do that.
standing up and representing all of us out there, because there are a lot more of us, even though you see the bad side of life, because you're prosecuting a lot of bad things, okay? And I feel the same way with the police and deputies and the sheriff's department and so forth. You guys see some of the hardest things in life. The rest of us don't have to. We can read about it and we can see it on TV and so forth, and then we go to the next page or the next story, okay? You guys have to live with that day after day and apply the law. So
Yeah, that's
thank
true.
you.
That's true. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the support and also the understanding of the difficulty of the job.
Yeah.
And at every level in the office, to and including accompanying the police to, as you said, some of the most gruesome scenes that human beings can impose on other human beings.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Awful. Just to even think about what you just said, I can see it in my brain and I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Larry Haskell, County Prosecutor. He has my support this fall.